the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.
G'day, viewers and listeners. It's another great episode of Nashville 2. Nashville 2 is all about your Nashville 2. So let's tell your story. If you or somebody you know should be a guest on Nashville 2, maybe they've got a nonprofit, maybe they've got a business, maybe they help mentor after school, maybe they just go around cleaning up the neighborhood. These are people that are recognized, and we want to recognize them. And today, my special guest is somebody I met online a couple of years ago, and then we have actually met in person multiple times now. And Cody, I always mess up your last name. How is it pronounced?
It's Nowocin, Ed. Cody Nowocin, yes, sir.
Okay, so Cody Nowocin is a YouTuber, inspirational YouTuber. I think your channel is Inspirations by Cody. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is.
Okay, well, my dad normally goes by Sir, but I know you were raised in the South, so I know that's part and parcel of what you do.
It is. It's hard to kill old habits sometimes.
That's right. Exactly. So I still say g'day. I mean, now I've learned to say g'day y'all or g'day all y'all.
Oh,
really
wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I just had my friend that was on, I met James Harback. He is a linguist. And he's an editor, and so we were having so much fun with words. It was awesome. So, but I was telling him that story. He says that's pretty funny, actually. So, Cody, you are not from Middle Tennessee, even though you are from the South. Tell us a little bit about your story.
I'm originally from Southwest Louisiana. I'm from a small town, Lake Arthur, Louisiana, population 4,000 people. I tell people I come from such a small place. My high school graduating class was like 50 people.
Right. Wow.
And then in 2011, I moved to Houston. I lived in Houston for about 10 years. And then I guess I started doing some networking back in last year, the beginning of last year.
I thought it was late. I thought it was late 2020, but okay, 2021.
It was like 2021, the end of January 20. So it's been about a year and a half now. And that's how me and Ed got acquainted, was through a virtual networking group.
Yeah, let's give a plug to Connect Nashville.
Hey, that's been the best thing, y'all. I mean, it's kind of like one of the secret gems of the Nashville market. People don't realize it.
Look at you throwing out your secret gem already. So, okay, that is a great secret gem. Do you want to expand on how you found them and how you're utilizing that networking group?
Yeah, and it's a funny story because I figured before I moved to Nashville, I needed to connect with people. So I did the traditional route. I called the chamber up. Everything that anyone else in business would do, didn't get no answer. I linked up with this guy, and I don't remember how I did it, via Messenger. And I said, hey, do you know any virtual networking groups? He said, yeah, check out this group, Connect Nashville. And I went, cool. I said, I have nothing to lose. I was like, if I don't like it, it's cool. If I do, we're just going to run with it. And I was very nervous when I did my first meeting, but once you get into the swing of things, it was just amazing because I really wasn't being active at the time with my channel. And someone said, hey, you need to get back into doing your YouTube channel again. It's a great opportunity. And I was like, I'm going to think about it. And all of a sudden I got back in love doing content again and everything like that. And it's just great because I go network at places. I'm the only one doing what I do. So I get the ability to work the room with people. Right. And it's just so amazing because it just gives me an opportunity to meet so many people. They get to look at my content. I get to share stuff with them. So that's truly blessed. And that's really how I got here, was through that avenue in connecting with that group. And it gave me the ability when I got here, was like, if I can do that, I can do pretty much anything at that point. Right. And if I can pack my car and come 800 miles away, not knowing anyone here, I'm at the point right now, I can just make anything happen. Right.
Yeah. So you were able to utilize Connect Nashville to build a network out before you even got here, so that when you landed here, when you moved here from, was it Katy, Texas? Was that where
Katy, Texas? Yes.
When you moved here, see, I do remember some things. When you move here from Katy, Texas, you're able to already have a network and come to the networking events, and people already know you because of what we've done on the virtual Connect.
Right.
So, folks, for those of you that don't know about Connect Nashville, in fact, my first ever guest on Nashville 2 was one of the owners of Connect Nashville, Josh Minton, who works as an insurance agent for, is it Insurance HQ? I might have
it's something HQ. I know what you're talking
anyway,
about.
You can find Josh on Connect Nashville Business Networking on Facebook. But when I joined, I had done the same thing. I bought a business in Nashville. I was living in Wichita, Kansas with my wife and 3 kids, although my kids were out of the house at that point. And then in July of 2020, we bought the business. We got moved to Bowling Green. It was as close as we could get with my wife's work, and we were hoping for a transfer into Nashville the next year. We ended up getting into Franklin, Tennessee in December of 21, but Connect Nashville was instrumental in helping me build that network. You and I met through Connect Nashville. And so Josh Minton, Tony Bostic, and Samantha Vanderkamp, all 3 of them work on the Connect Nashville Business Networking. When I joined and you joined, it was about 7,000 to 9,000 people. Now it's about 12,000 people and 12, growing.
13,000 people. I think the last time I saw it, it's such a great network.
And they do free networking events Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I think they do 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, maybe even 2 on Thursday. They've got a bunch of stuff out there anyway, folks. So that's Cody's hidden gem. Tony Bostic, Josh Minton, and Samantha Vanderkamp run Connect Nashville Business Networking. So Cody, tell us a little bit about what you do and what motivates you and what drives you.
I think one of the things that motivates me to do my channel is just my faith. You know, I like to see the best in people because, you know, we're so blessed to be able to live in a time and live in a place where if you make that decision, you want to do anything, you can achieve it.
Right.
And you can change what's going on in your life, you know, and people don't realize that. We see testimonies every single day. And I think that motivates me more than the whole point of getting my channel monetized, or the whole thing of that is just being able to have that opportunity one day to have those testimonies come out of what I do.
Right.
And have people know, hey, you can be the best version of yourself. And I think, and you can probably relate that to being in business a little longer than I have been, where you've come across people like that. And it's just such a blessing to be able to see that.
Right. And how long have you been doing that? Like you started, like you said, you set it aside for a while, but how long overall have you been doing that? About
2 years now, probably December of 2019, right before the pandemic.
Right. And how often do you post?
Every 7 to 10 days.
Okay. So have you turned that into a podcast as well, or is it predominantly just the YouTube channel right now?
Just YouTube right now. I will eventually, and that's something I have in the works.
Right.
It's just the fact trying to find time because I also do have a regular 9-to-5 job. I'm not at that point yet where I can be like, hey, I can just do this all the time, but that's gonna eventually happen. So it's me just carving out time to be able to do these other projects I want to do. And I know, you've talked about a few other things I want to do, a podcast on, eventually writing a book. And there's a few other things I would like to do with this as well, live speaking.
Right. Yeah, I definitely. Well. So live speaking, would you like to talk from a faith-based and inspirational base, or did you have other topics that you thought would be good speaking topics?
Faith-based, yeah, always faith-based and inspirational is one. Motivational is another good one. Especially, I know a lot of, especially with this coming out the pandemic right now, we have a lot of groups like your Rotary clubs and organizations like that looking for speakers. And I also love talking with other entrepreneurs also, because I'm a firm believer in entrepreneurship. Because I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish that.
I'm definitely a firm believer in entrepreneurship because it gives you the ability and the freedom to do whatever you want to do and take that creativity to the next level that you can't get at a regular 9-to-5 job. I'm blessed to have my 9-to-5 job right now. But there's other things I would love to achieve on this journey. This is just the first part of the journey, Ed.
Right.
Is me coming to Nashville.
Yep.
What's going to happen next year, the next 3 years, the next 4 years, the next 5 years? That's what's going to define me in the market. And it's going to give me, and also with my channel, it gives me a platform just not to be successful in Nashville, but it gives me an ability to be successful nationally and internationally in whatever I do. Because it gives me such a great platform to do that with technology.
Right. Absolutely. And so how did you get this? Let's talk about the two things that are important to you, amongst others, of course, but your faith and the entrepreneurial spirit. Let's talk about how you found your faith a little bit without this being a sermon, but let's talk about it a little bit. And then let's talk about where your love for becoming an entrepreneur and your love for entrepreneurial behaviors, business ownership behaviors comes from.
I think the faith part was easy. I was raised by a lot of powerful people in my family. My aunt, my mom, my grandmother always instilled values of faith in me. So I think it was always natural for me growing up to want to have that relationship with God. Right. And I think that kept me instilled even at the times in my life where I could have strayed away. And I was like, I'm not going to, because there's that fear. Growing up in the South, you know, faith is never too far away. And growing up in rural Louisiana and being in a small town, it really doesn't go away.
Yep. Because
everybody is so close to each other. So I think that was just so natural to me. But to go, I think if I wouldn't have been that in depth, I wouldn't have been able to do the other things I have going on now, like exploring it in my channel.
So thanks, Cody. So tell me about your entrepreneurial journey. Did you grow up in a business owner family?
I didn't. My grandfather worked in the oil field for 40 years, oil and gas. I always say that's like the second closest thing to living in a military family, to living in an oil field family, because those guys were tough.
Right. Yep.
My grandfather was tough, but he did put a good work ethic in me. But no, I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. I think I didn't really connect into learning anything about entrepreneurship until I moved to Houston, and I really got exposed to the whole multi-level marketing.
Right.
Part of things.
Yeah. So different direct sales. I think multi-level marketing, for a lot of people that look down their nose at it, I think that's a wrong position to take, because good multi-level marketing companies can teach a person how to run a successful business. Right.
I think the biggest thing with multi-level marketing sometimes is people just don't get invited into the right teams and the right leadership.
Right. Yeah.
With a lot of MLMs. And I think that's where you get a sour taste in your mouth with MLMs. That's how I got, for a while, a sour taste in my mouth with MLMs. But it also got me into the whole thing with motivational speaking.
Right.
Because I came up with the concept. I said, all these leaders are doing this, getting on stage and firing up these teams. And I was like, well, what if I created a concept and just did that for everybody?
Right.
You don't have to have come from a business background. Just do something for regular people and just combine it with something that I absolutely love to do.
Right.
And that's really where I think my YouTube channel came into existence, just with having that background and getting exposed to that.
Yeah. Like, and I think the view, what you said, is what most small business owners do, is they love helping other people. Oh, how can I help other people first? And, is there a way to make some money helping other people without compromising my principles? So many times salespeople and business people get a bad name, but really what they're doing is they see a need in the market and they try and fill that need. A lot of the times they don't have the business acumen to grow that business, but the fact that they're attempting to help other people, that's the stories I want to tell. That's what Nashville 2 is all about. So that's why I love the fact that you're on here. You're talking about your entrepreneurial journey. I don't know how to spell entrepreneur. I think the French have a word for that. You know, maybe you need to look it up. But I'll get comments and messages now. This is the way you spell entrepreneur.
I'm from South Louisiana. I'm glad on most days I can barely speak English. So
as an Aussie by birth, but American by choice, I'm the same way. My last guest on my other podcast called The Edward Show was from Toronto, and he was a linguist. And so he writes a lot about words. And so we were having some fun with words. So talk us through your entrepreneurial journey. Talk us through what you're attempting to achieve with your YouTube channel, where people can find you, that sort of thing.
Well, going back to a little bit, like I said, I had been exposed early on with several network marketing companies, and I just wasn't my thing, Ed. I mean, I don't mind recruiting or anything like that. And it really just struck this idea I got into. I said, I could do motivational speaking. But at that time, I really didn't know what the avenue was to do motivational speaking. And then I guess I was looking around. I was like, I could do a YouTube channel. And I said, what would I want to speak on YouTube? That's a good thing. And I was like, I always like talking about my faith. I always like talking about my relationship with God. But also, too, I learned through my network marketing journey a lot of things about personal development,
Right.
And me and you probably read some of the same people, Jim Rohn,
right?
Zig Ziglar,
Napoleon Hill, David Schwartz, right. Magic. So what do you have, like, give me your top 3 books?
Oh, it's always going to be Think and Grow Rich.
Yep. Napoleon Hill.
I think that's like the greatest starter book to do when you're talking about this. I like John Maxwell also.
Right. I like his 7 laws. I mean, he's got a ton of books, but
he's got a ton of books. I think the one I did was like the Laws on Leadership.
Right. Yeah, that's the one that sticks out for me is John Maxwell's Laws on Leadership. Okay, another one.
Those are the only 2 I can think of right now. Okay. I need to become. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I've got my top 5 list. We're going to set the Bible aside because that's basically an instruction manual on life.
It's an instruction.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, when we're talking about personal development, I mean, of course, you can get a lot of that stuff from scripture, but I think there's a lot of people that really have expanded on it in the personal development field.
So let's take the Bible first. Do you have a favorite quote from the Bible? A favorite passage?
I have several.
Okay, but I think one that stands out to you?
Oh, of course, it comes from Jeremiah. I know the plans I have for you. They're not to harm you, but to give you a future.
Right.
Just the first line in that gets me excited to know, hey, somebody has a plan for me. Somebody's looking after me. And I mean, to me, that's just awesome. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite scriptures of all time.
Right. The one that really resonated with me is, of course, John 3:16, and that's an easy go-to. That's a grab. But to me, it's that basic. You don't have to make your walk with Christ difficult. Okay, so but my favorite quote that my wife and I go back and forth on is Ecclesiastes 11:2, and this is an Edward paraphrase of the NIV. Okay, and it says something about, if you have 6 ventures, have 7 or 8 ventures, because we never know when disaster may strike. And my wife, so I use that. I say, hey, I want to buy another business. And she go, and then I say, Ecclesiastes 11:2. And she goes, yes, but it doesn't say 11 or 12 or 15 or 20. It says 7 or 8. And I said, okay, fair enough, fair chat. But so that's the fun that we have back and forth. So let's set the Bible up there as the first book we should be reading, whether we're Christian or not. There's a lot of good value in that. You've talked about Think and Grow Rich. You've talked about John Maxwell's books. A couple of favorites I have to add to that: The Magic of Thinking Big, David Schwartz; Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
I forgot about that one, and I have read that one. Yes.
Very powerful, very changed my life. My number one business book is a book called Endless Referrals by Bob Burg. Bob Burg, Endless Referrals. Heard him at a multi-level marketing company event, actually, Amway back in the day. He was a speaker there, bought that book, changed my life. And How to Win Friends and Influence People, an oldie but a goodie, 1936, Dale Carnegie, still good. And then Frank Betch's How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. Yes, some of the language has changed, some of the techniques have changed, but the ideas haven't changed, right? The ideas are help enough other people get what they want and you'll have everything in life you want. I mean, that's the way it does, you know. So those are my favorite books. And then, do you have any favorite audios you like to listen to?
I don't. Really, I don't. And I really need to get into more of listen to podcasts and.
Well, I know a good one that you might listen to afterwards.
Yeah, I can think of a good one right now, sir. Absolutely. But I like, one of the things I like to do is I love on YouTube where they do these motivational soundtracks. And one of my favorite ones I like, and I'm going to do from Steve Harvey, and this is actually from scripture, but you have not because you ask not.
Right.
And I think that was really my theme last year with Connect Nashville and everything like that. I hadn't been in the market yet, was just to keep knocking on doors and just trying to keep one-on-ones with people. And I think what happened was, and sometimes we have to be careful, we slip away from that, those knocking on those doors, but we forget if we don't knock on those doors, we don't get the opportunities that we have.
That is so true. And say that again. Say that quote again.
You have not because you ask not.
How many times do we walk away without asking for what we want? And it doesn't have to be monetarily. It doesn't have to be, you know, sometimes little kids are great at it. And they say things like, can I have a hug? They need a hug, right? Adults, we don't say that, but we need hugs. I'm a big hugger pre-COVID. Like now, everything that's gone on, you have to ask for permission to hug. But I'm a big hugger because that touch conveys a comfort that we don't get any other way, right? It's not about being inappropriately affectionate. It's just a simple hug like grandma used to give us, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think somehow and somewhere we have been told that asking or achieving what we want has become this ugly, dirty thing. And how dare we ask that?
Right.
When it's not, because it doesn't always have to come from a position of greed, but it can come from a position of growth.
Right. And you're exactly right. So I think that is a powerful point that a lot of people will take away. And I know I'll take it away. Because one of the challenges with my business is my business coach says, dude, why don't you ask for the sale more? Oh, if they want it, they'll buy it. He said, like, you've got to ask. And you just, it's funny. We just had that conversation on Friday. And here you are talking about it. So, you know, God is really good. I've got to tell you my God story from Sunday. Alice works every other Sunday as a pharmacy manager for Kroger. And I went to bed at like 2:00. And I said, I don't normally go to church on the Sundays that she works. And I said, God, if you want me to get up and go to church, I need to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 9:00 because our service is at 10. I can get in the shower, get out, get dressed, and be there in about half an hour. So I need you to get me up at 9:00. And if I'm awake at 9:00, I'll make you a deal. I'll get up and I'll go to church, even though I normally don't do that on the Sundays that she works.
Right.
And I didn't go to bed till 2. I didn't put my phone down probably until 2:30, right? So I normally sleep till about 10:00 when I go to bed about 2:30. And anyway, 9:02, I'm wide awake. I'm not like just waking up. I go from being dead asleep to 9:02, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And I'm like, and I'm laying there and I'm on my phone. It's 9:04. It's 9:05. It's 9:06. I'm like, okay, God, I made a deal. I'll get up. I'll get out of bed.
Let's go.
Yeah. And I had a great experience. I met some new people at our church. I had the sermon was great. And so you just never know. You just never know how God is working in your life if you don't talk to him. I didn't want to turn this into a sermon, but
yeah, I understand. I was trying to, but it's so true. We don't know, and you know as well as I do, networking and everything out there and being out in the marketplace. We meet people all the time that we may not be looking for.
Right.
Or we go to a happy hour. I know I've had this several times where I've talked to somebody like very faintly at a networking meeting, and I go to a happy hour and they're like, "Hey Cody, how you doing?" And I'm like thinking here, I'm trying to put a name together, and I'm like, I don't remember this person.
Right.
But whatever I said to them must have left a great impression on them, because they're over here shaking my hand.
Right.
And enthusiastically wanting to talk with me. And I'm like,
I felt that was the way we connected when you came on to Connect Nashville. This is when the Zoom calls had 30 or 40 people on them, were maxed out, and they turned people away. And I'm like, man, I got to get to know that kid. I got to get to understand him and see what drives him. And we had a great one-to-one. And then when you got here, it was like we'd known each other all of our lives and grown up together, right? I mean, and
if anyone asks me about Ed Fox is my brother. I mean, that's just the type of relationship we have when we meet each other. And I mean, right. It's great.
Yes. And that to me is what I love about when people don't come with preconceived ideas or set aside their fears and concerns. You could have been fearful and never made the move from Houston, right? Because I'm sure you moved to Houston as a younger kid, right? How old were you when you moved to Houston?
I was in my mid-20s, because I only lived in Houston for about 10 years.
Oh, okay. So to me, you still look like you're bloody 26, dude. So I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 36. I'm 36. I get that all the time, though.
I was thinking you moved to Houston with your folks, like you were 16 or something. So there you go.
Right. Well, and the cool thing was on that one was my mom and my uncle lived in Houston, and I just had graduated college, and they said, just come down.
Right.
I was like, I don't got nothing to lose at that point. I mean, it's with family.
Right.
And that was the difference between when I did that and I did this.
Right.
Because I really had no idea what I was going to do.
Right. But you took it on faith. You walked out. You walked the plank of faith, if you will.
Oh, yeah. I walked it, but I've had so much fun.
Right.
I've had so much fun doing all this stuff, because I'll get people still asking, well, what do you think about Nashville? I'm like, it's amazing.
Right. Yep.
I mean, and it's not what people think Nashville is. It's not the fact it's Music City. It's not the fact it's the home of the Grand Ole Opry. It's not the fact of all this stuff. It's the fact that with Nashville, it's a place you can come and create something out of yourself.
Right.
In the business community, and you can attest this, the business community in Nashville is amazing. Try to go do this, what we do, Ed, in other markets.
Yes.
It will never happen.
Right. And people say, every city says they're a networking city. And I have networked in Sydney. I have networked in Brisbane. I have networked in London. I have networked in a little bit in Paris. Of course, the language barrier didn't help me in Paris. I have networked all over the US. I can tell you without fail, I've run businesses in Dallas. I've run businesses in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa. I can tell you without fail that Nashville, Tennessee, and the metro area, Middle Tennessee, as they call it, are the best networkers on the planet that I have found.
Because people genuinely want to help you, and people genuinely want to listen to your story.
Yeah, and there's a lot of genuine people everywhere else I've been. I love their authenticity, but there's something about the community in Nashville, the business community in Nashville. Yes, we all have our own goals. We all have our own desires, right. But we are really good at listening to people. We are really good at helping people, and we're really good at coming out and supporting the networks that support us.
I agree with that. I truly agree with that, because you have to remember, when I started this last year, I did a little bit of networking in Houston. It was a little hit and miss, but I never did the networking that I do now.
Right.
And it was just so great that people want to talk with you, and people want to build those connections with you.
They want to learn about you. Exactly. And I'm a big proponent. I love BNI, right? Business Networking International has been really successful for me in Wichita and has really helped me build connections here in Nashville as well. So I've been in BNI for 12 years. It's not everybody's cup of tea, right? There's people that will say they don't like it for various reasons, and that's fine. They should do them. But for me, between Connect Nashville, free business networking, and then the sponsorships or the memberships you can have for higher levels of engagement with the group. And then you've got NTI, Networking Today International, which is a little more relaxed than BNI. And then you've got BNI. To me, all of those three networking groups have impact. And then on top of that, you've got, like you, I found that a few of the chambers were not active. They didn't respond to calls. I found Williamson Inc. to be very responsive, Williamson County. So I love that chamber as well. And then there was one other I was going to talk about. There's a few independent networking groups that meet around the Franklin, Williamson County area that are ex-BNIers or ex-NTIers that get together, and they've built their own great little networks. Josh Minton has a single seat networking group that is exclusive. Have you been to that one at all?
I have not been to that one. Me and him have discussed it.
Right.
I may get back with them on that one. And on that one, but I think it's a single seat one, so it's very similar to BNI style.
Right, without
meeting.
Without the expense, but I find the BNI expense to pay off every year. So anyway, so Cody, we're going to wrap this up. How would people find you or get a hold of you? Watch your YouTube channel? What should they search for?
Inspirations by Cody on YouTube.
Simple, folks. Simple.
Okay.
And we did one hidden gem. We did Connect Nashville. Do you have another couple of hidden gems for me? Do you have something that you've moved to Nashville that you've seen that you think is really cool, either places to eat or places to hang out or things to do?
Yes. Okay. They have a place in East Nashville called Living Waters.
Okay.
It's a beer pub, but they also do coffee in the morning. Okay. So anyone that likes to do even just social, but even like for business, it's a good one-on-one spot. It's very quiet.
Is that around the corner from Boom Bars?
No, it's a little further out.
Okay.
You got it's a little, if you take Briley, it's a little further north of Opry Mills.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize. So it's called Living Waters. It's a pub, but a coffee shop in the morning.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So you can give us a blurb on that. Do you have one more for me?
Not really, Ed. I mean, just that one, and I'm still exploring.
Still exploring, right?
Yeah.
You have you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for a good breakfast place. I did First Watch, but they're out of my budget. $50 for two of us to have breakfast at First Watch. I probably picked the high-end stuff, but I'm more of a Waffle House guy. Do you have a favorite breakfast place around Nashville?
Have you tried, and think they have one in Franklin, because I found one because I live up in the Hermitage area. Have you been to Oscar's Taco Shop?
No. Oscar's
their breakfast tacos are good, and their nachos are good too.
Oscar's Tacos. I like a good breakfast taco. My best breakfast taco ever was New Braunfels, Texas.
Right outside of San Antonio.
Yeah, right outside of San Antonio. And then there was another town, San Marcos, Texas, was pretty cool as well.
When you went to Texas, did you ever get to go to Buc-ces?
Oh, yes. And there's Buc-ces now. When I drive back to Wichita, there's Buc-ces on. There's, I'm a big Quick Trip fan. So I would love Quick Trip to be here, but Buc-ces, oh my gosh, that's it. I'm writing a zombie novel. Actually, I'm thinking about writing a zombie novel, and we're going to camp out at a Buc-ces. That's going to be
definitely. Yeah. Well, they have one toward Knoxville now.
Yes, we were driving to Knoxville the other day, and they're building this, what is it, like 42 pumps?
Right. That one's going to be bigger than any of the ones in the state of Texas.
Wow. That is fun. So, folks, if you've not checked out a Buc-ces, do yourself a favor. It's like a day trip. It's like a Walmart, a gas station, a restaurant. What else? Showers. I think showers are
Yeah, they have some stuff for like the truckers and stuff like that. Right. Bring a couple $100. in your pocket. Get you some Buc-ces memorabilia, y'all.
That's right.
Because it's just crazy. I mean, you can go in there, get barbecue sandwiches. You can get sweaters with the Buc-ces logo on it.
So I think a lot of us are familiar with Love's. They're out of Oklahoma. Where are they out of? Oklahoma City. I think Love's is out of Oklahoma City, but they have a lot of Love stations, and we see a lot of that stuff. But Buc-ces is that times 100.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's an experience. It's like a destination within itself.
Okay, so I'm going to put Buc-ces down as another hidden gem. So what we're going to do now, folks, is Cody, we're going to end the podcast, and then Cody's going to send me an email with his hidden gems, a bio of him and a bio of his Inspirations by Cody. And then we'll edit this a little bit. I got to chop out a couple of things, and this will be up in a couple of weeks, and you'll be able to follow Cody. So be sure to check out Inspirations by Cody on YouTube. And then I want to talk him into getting a TikTok channel. So Cody, you can take that content from YouTube and put it on TikTok. So we'll see if I can get him talked into that.
We'll discuss it.
We'll discuss it. We'll put it on the list. I always tell my wife I'll put it on the list. She goes, that list is like 4 miles long. When are you going to start taking things off the list? I'll say, okay, I'll put that on the list too. Take things off the list. Okay.
But the problem is when you're an entrepreneur, you add more things on the list than you're ever going to take off, because you eventually look at it's like, why did I put that on there? That's kind of silly.
Right. Well, but so I have this one thought to share, and then we'll wrap it up, is people self-edit their great ideas. They edit it before they write it down. Don't edit your ideas, people. Write down all your ideas. Let me say that one more time. Write down all your ideas. You can edit later. If you think, oh, what about if I had a pooper scooper business where I used some bugs that devoured the poop and I didn't have to scoop? Okay, that might be a stupid idea. I don't know. Is there
rock and roll with it?
Well, isn't there dung beetles? I wonder if you brought like a group of dung beetles and set them. Did they actually eat dung? I don't know. Maybe they're just found in the dung. I don't know. But it's an idea. Write down your idea. Oh, I want to write a book on how you can build your own submarine. Okay, then write a book. Write down the idea to write a book on how you build your own. It doesn't matter. Write down your ideas and then edit the idea. You never know. I had the idea of streaming video back in 1992. I didn't know how we were going to stream the video. The idea was sort of like a Roku channel before Roku. You know what? It wasn't the right time for that idea. Plus, I didn't have the money to get that idea off the ground. But now look at us.
It's kind of like I found a notebook from 3 years ago of stuff I wrote down, and I was like, I was unpacking stuff here, and I was like, what's this notebook? And I opened it up, and I'm like, what a treasure trove of ideas I wrote 3 years ago that I didn't even realize I wrote down. Right.
When we moved from our little house to our property where I built a cricket field, we'd had boxes in the garage. And in 1988, I'd written in Australia, when I was doing Amway, I'd written these note cards on what my goals were. And one of the goals was that I would live in America for an extended stay. I would build my own private cricket field, and I would have a property with a creek running through it. 2002, we're moving these boxes that hadn't been opened since I moved in 1990. Mm-hmm. And we open this box, and I pull out these stack of note cards, and the rubber band, which is so old, it's broken. The cards fall all over the place. The first card I pick up is 2000 goals by 2000 that I hadn't seen since 1989.
Right.
And on that goal was build my own cricket field, have an extended stay in the US, and have a property with a creek running through it. Well, guess what? I moved here in 1990 after I met the most wonderful wife in the world.
Right.
For those of you that can see my Zoom background, I'm going to put my cricket field up on it. So this is the cricket field I built with the help of my dad and my wife and my kids. And right back there across the top, that if you watch this little bit on, there's a creek running through there. It's a dry creek right now, but it does flood and it floods on the bottom. So this is my cricket.
That's so cool, Ed.
So you don't know, like you said, you don't know when you write down information, you don't know when it's going to come true. So be careful. You know, the Bible tells us to be careful what we say, right? Be careful how we speak. Be careful what we talk about, and be sure we're talking about the right things, right? So So thank you for that idea. And that's a great share. And do you have any last minute words of advice?
Guys, I always finish off my videos with this quote here.
Okay.
It's always great to be happy, but always try to find joy in your life.
Find the joy, people. And I'm finding joy talking to Cody and living in Nashville, the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area, and doing this podcast. So if you've got somebody that needs to be on this podcast, have them hit me up. All of our contact details will be on the show notes. And we produce the video podcast, goes out to YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then the audio podcast goes on all the platforms from Audible, Amazon, iHeart, Google, Spotify, Apple, all the major ones. Anyway, you can find us on there. Hey, Cody, thanks so much for being our guest.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I'm so glad that you invited me on, and I get to share some great stuff with your listeners and your viewers. So thank you so much for inviting me.
You bet.
This is the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.